Christmas dinner should have been warm. It should have been filled with laughter, gratitude, the clinking of glasses under twinkling lights. Instead, it became the night my family revealed just how little they valued me. My sister smiled across the table, eyes bright with excitement, and said the words that would change everything. "Mom and Dad said I can move into your new place next week." I paused mid-sip, the wine bitter on my tongue. My parents didn't look up. They kept cutting their ham, passing dishes, acting like this was the most natural thing in the world. I smiled back. "Oh, thanks for the heads up. You should move in Tuesday." Her grin widened. She had no idea what was coming. But let me take you back to the beginning, to explain how a quiet woman who worked her entire life finally learned to say no. My name is Diana. I'm 29 years old, and I've been working since I was 16. Weekend shifts at a grocery store in Austin while finishing high school. Night shifts at a hotel front desk while attending community college full-time. Brutal hours, aching feet, empty bank accounts that slowly, painfully began to grow. My parents never helped. Not with tuition. Not with rent. Not with anything. They made it clear early on that I was expected to take care of myself, and I did. Meanwhile, my younger sister Veronica, 25 and jobless, lived a completely different reality. Our parents funded everything. Her car, her credit cards, her shopping trips. When she dropped out of college after one semester because the classes were too stressful, they didn't even ask her to look for work. They just kept the money flowing while she lounged around posting filtered photos and complaining about how boring life was. Moved out at 19 into a studio apartment that smelled like mildew and had radiators that clanked all night. But it was mine. By 24, I'd saved enough to buy a small house. My parents didn't come to the closing. My mother said they were busy. Veronica didn't reply to my text. 3 years later, I bought a second property, a 2-bedroom condo downtown in a newly renovated building. It was a smart investment. The rental market was strong. I planned to use the income to pay down my mortgage faster and build equity. I closed in early December. At 29, I owned 2 properties with manageable mortgages and a solid financial plan. I was proud. I mentioned it to my parents during a phone call about Christmas plans, just in passing. I closed on an investment property, excited about the rental income potential. My mother said, "Oh, that's nice, dear," and changed the subject to what dishes everyone should bring. I didn't think much of it. Christmas Eve arrived. I drove to their house with homemade apple pie and a bottle of wine. The house looked exactly the same as it had for 20 years. Same artificial tree, same decorations, same smell of ham baking in the oven. Veronica was sprawled on the couch in pajama pants, scrolling through her phone. She barely glanced up when I walked in. Hey. We sat down to eat around 7, passing dishes, making small talk. Everything felt normal. Then, halfway through dinner, Veronica looked up from her plate and smiled. Bright, excited, the kind of smile I hadn't seen on her face in years. "So, Diana," she said cheerfully, "Mom and Dad said I can move into your new condo next week." I stopped chewing. Set down my fork, looked at her, then at my parents. My mother focused intently on her green beans. My father kept cutting his ham. "Excuse me?" I said. "Your condo downtown," Veronica continued, still smiling. "Mom and Dad told me I could move in. I'm so excited. I've been dying to get out of this house. Downtown is perfect." I looked at my parents again. My mother finally met my eyes, her expression casual, as if we were discussing the weather. "Well, you have that extra property now," she said, "and Veronica needs a place to live. It just makes sense." I let the words hang in the air. Years of working in hospitality had taught me how to hide my emotions when necessary. "Oh," I said lightly, taking another sip of wine. "Thanks for letting me know in advance." Veronica's smile widened. "I know, right? I didn't want to bother you with all the details. Mom and Dad said they'd handle it." I nodded slowly. "You should move in on Tuesday." "Perfect," she said, already texting her friends. "I've already started packing." My mother looked relieved. My father nodded approvingly. I finished my dinner in silence, left around 9 with a polite smile and a wave goodbye. The drive home took 20 minutes. I gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white under the streetlights. I was furious, but I was also calculating. Anger without strategy is useless. When I got home, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and a cup of coffee. It was nearly 10 at night, but I was wide awake. I opened my email and started drafting a rental listing for the condo. I had planned to wait until after the holidays to find tenants, maybe take a few weeks to furnish the place. But plans change. I wrote a detailed description. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, updated kitchen with stainless steel appliances, in-unit washer and dryer, balcony with a downtown view, walking distance to restaurants and shops. I listed the rent at a competitive rate, knowing it would attract attention quickly. Then I drove back downtown and spent 2 hours photographing every angle. The empty rooms looked better than I expected. Hardwood floors gleaming, big windows making the space feel open and airy. By midnight, the listing was live on 3 different rental websites. By morning, I had 17 inquiries. I spent Christmas Day responding to messages, scheduling showings, running background checks. By December 26th, I had 3 strong candidates. The first was Jessica, a physical therapist who worked at a rehabilitation center. Professional, polite, thoughtful, she had a steady income and had been at her job for 4 years. She fell in love with the condo the moment she walked in. I called her that evening and offered her the lease. "Really?" she said, her voice bright with excitement. "That's amazing. Thank you so much. Can you sign the lease and move in next week?" I asked. "Absolutely. I can sign tomorrow if you want." "Perfect. Let's meet Friday at noon." We met on December 29th. Jessica brought a cashier's check for first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit. We sat at the kitchen counter and went through the lease page by page. She read every section carefully, asked clarifying questions, and signed on the dotted line. "When can I move in?" she asked. "Whenever you want." "You officially have the keys now," Jessica beamed. "I'm thinking Tuesday. I have the week off work, so it's perfect timing." "Tuesday works great," I said, handing her the keys. We shook hands. She left with a bounce in her step, already texting someone about her new place. I sat in the empty condo for a few minutes after she left, feeling a deep sense of satisfaction. The property was rented. I had a signed lease, payment in full, a responsible tenant. Everything was handled professionally and legally. Over the weekend, I went about my normal routine, worked my shifts, ran errands, went to the gym. I didn't contact my parents or Veronica. They didn't contact me either, which was typical. On Monday night, I received a text from Veronica. "Still good for tomorrow." Moving in around 2 p.m., I smiled and typed back, "Yes. See you then." She sent back a string of excited emojis. I went to bed early that night, setting my alarm for 7. Tuesday was going to be important, and I wanted to be well rested. I woke up feeling calm, focused. I made myself a proper breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, coffee. I ate slowly, savoring each bite. Around noon, I texted Jessica. "Hey, just checking in. Are you moving in today?" She responded immediately, "Yes. The movers are loading the truck now. Should be there by 1 p.m. "Perfect. Let me know if you need anything." At 1:30, Jessica texted me a photo of her new living room with boxes stacked against the wall. "Made it. This place is even better than I remembered." I smiled and sent back a thumbs-up emoji. At 1:45, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Diana," she said, her voice tight. "Where are you?" "At home. Why?" "Veronica is at the condo. There are people there, people moving furniture in." "Oh," I said, keeping my voice light. "Yes, those are my tenants. They moved in today." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Your tenants?" my mother repeated. "Yes. I rented the condo out last week. I thought I mentioned that." "You most certainly did not mention that," my mother said, her voice rising. "Veronica is standing outside with all her belongings. She's humiliated. I'm sorry she's upset," I said. "But the condo is rented now. I have a signed lease and everything." "Diana, this is unacceptable," my mother snapped. "You knew she was moving in today." "Actually, I didn't know," I said calmly. "No one asked me. You all just decided among yourselves that Veronica would live in my property without ever consulting me. I own that condo. I paid for it with my own money, and I decided to rent it out." My mother sputtered on the other end. I could hear my father's voice in the background asking what was happening. I could also hear Veronica crying, high-pitched, shrill. "This is your sister," my mother finally said. "How could you do this to her?" "Do what?" I asked. "Rent out my own property? Use my investment to generate income like I planned?" "You're being selfish," my mother snapped. "You have plenty of space. You could have let her stay for free." "For free?" I repeated. That wasn't a question. "She's family," my mother said, as if that explained everything. "So am I," I replied. "But that didn't stop you from expecting me to hand over my property without even asking me first." "We told you at Christmas dinner." "You informed me of a decision you'd already made," I corrected. "That's not the same as asking." My father took the phone. His voice was stern, the same tone he used when I was a child and had done something he disapproved of. "Diana, you need to fix this. Your sister is standing on the sidewalk crying. The neighbors are watching. This is embarrassing for all of us." "I'm sorry she's embarrassed," I said. "But I can't fix this. I have a legal lease agreement with a tenant who's already moved in. The condo is occupied." "Break the lease," my father demanded. "I can't do that, and I wouldn't even if I could. This is my property and my decision." "After everything we've done for you," my father said, his voice dripping with disappointment. I almost laughed. "Everything you've done for me? Like what exactly?" "We raised you. You were legally obligated to do that. I've been financially independent since I was 19. I paid for my own education, my own car, my own housing. You've never given me a single dollar of support since I moved out. Meanwhile, you've funded Veronica's entire adult life. So don't talk to me about what you've done for me." There was silence. I could hear my mother crying now, too. Veronica was still wailing in the background. "You're being cruel," my father said quietly. "No," I said. "I'm being fair. I worked hard for what I have. I sacrificed and saved for years to build financial security. Veronica has never worked for anything in her life, and you enabled that. You made her believe she could just take whatever she wanted without asking, without earning it, without even considering that other people have rights and boundaries." "She's your sister," my father repeated, as if saying it enough times would change my mind. "And I'm your daughter," I said. "But you never treated me like Veronica was treated. You never paid my bills or bought me cars or let me live rent-free. You expected me to handle everything on my own. So I did. And now I'm handling my own property in the way I see fit." My father was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Your mother and I are very disappointed in you." "I can live with that," I said. "Goodbye." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline coursing through my body. I set the phone down on the kitchen counter and took a deep breath. I had just drawn a line in the sand with my family. There was no going back from it, but I didn't regret it. Not for a second. My phone buzzed with text messages. First from my mother, then from Veronica, then from my mother again. I didn't read them. I silenced my phone and put it in a drawer. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back porch, looking out at my small but well-maintained yard. I had planted flowers along the fence line last spring, and they were still blooming despite the winter chill. I had painted the porch myself, choosing a soft gray that complemented the house's exterior. Every part of this place reflected my hard work, my choices. The condo downtown was the same. I had chosen it carefully, negotiated a fair price, secured financing, and closed the deal. All on my own. It was mine. Not my parents', not Veronica's, mine. And I had every right to decide what to do with it. Around 6 p.m, I pulled my phone out of the drawer and checked the messages. 12 texts total. Most of them were variations of, "How could you do this?" and "You're tearing this family apart," and "Veronica is devastated." There was one text from Veronica that stood out. I had to go back to Mom and Dad's house. "Everyone saw me get turned away. I'm so humiliated. How could you?" I read it twice, then deleted it without responding. There was also a voicemail from my mother. I listened to it. "Diana, this is your mother. I don't know what's gotten into you, but this behavior is unacceptable. Your sister needed that apartment. She had plans. She told all her friends she was moving downtown. Now she has to tell them she's still living at home like a child. You've humiliated her. You've humiliated all of us. I hope you're happy." The voicemail ended with a click. I saved it, just in case I ever needed documentation, then put my phone back in the drawer. I made myself dinner. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, a side salad. I ate at my kitchen table, alone but not lonely. I had learned a long time ago that being alone was better than being surrounded by people who didn't respect me. The next morning, I woke up to find that my parents and Veronica had blocked me on social media. I discovered this when I tried to look at a photo my mother had posted of Christmas dinner. Instead, I found blank profiles and error messages. It was almost funny. They thought cutting me off digitally was some kind of punishment, as if I had been desperately clinging to their online presence. In reality, I checked their pages maybe once a month, usually out of boredom rather than genuine interest. I went to work that day feeling lighter than I had in years. My manager noticed the change in my mood. "You seem happy today," she said during our morning meeting. "Very productive holiday," I replied with a smile. The hotel was busy with New Year's tourists, and I threw myself into work, helped guests with reservations, solved problems, coordinated with housekeeping, handled a minor crisis when one of the elevators broke down. By the end of my shift, I was tired but satisfied. When I got home that evening, there was a card taped to my front door. I recognized my mother's handwriting on the envelope. I pulled it down and went inside, tossing my keys on the counter before opening it. The card had a generic image of flowers on the front. Inside, my mother had written a long message in her neat, precise script. "Diana, your father and I have been talking, and we think you need to reconsider your actions. Family is the most important thing in life, and you've hurt Veronica deeply. She's been crying for 2 days straight. She barely eats. She won't leave her room. You did this to her. We raised you to be kind and generous, but you've become selfish and cold. We're giving you 1 week to reconsider. If you terminate the lease with your tenant and give Veronica the apartment like we agreed, we can move past this. If not, you need to understand that there will be consequences. We won't be able to have a relationship with someone who treats family this way. The choice is yours." I read the card 3 times, each time feeling a different emotion. First disbelief, then anger, then something close to relief. They were giving me an ultimatum. They actually believed that threatening to cut me off would make me cave to their demands. They thought I needed them more than I needed my own self-respect. I walked to my kitchen, opened the drawer where I kept matches, and took the card outside to my back porch. I held it over my small fire pit and lit one corner, watching as the flames consumed my mother's careful handwriting. The paper curled and blackened. Within seconds, it was nothing but ash. I didn't respond to the card. I didn't call or text. I simply went on with my life as if nothing had happened. 3 days later, my aunt called me. She was my mother's younger sister, and we'd never been particularly close. "Diana," she said when I answered, "I heard about what happened with Veronica." "Did you?" I said flatly. "Your mother is very upset. She called me crying yesterday. She said you refused to let Veronica live in your apartment." "My condo," I corrected, "and I didn't refuse. I was never asked. They decided among themselves that Veronica would move in without consulting me. By the time they bothered to inform me, I'd already rented it to a paying tenant." "Still," my aunt said, "Veronica is family. Couldn't you have made an exception?" "Why?" I asked. "Why should I make an exception for someone who's never worked for anything, who's never shown me any respect or consideration, who's never even thanked me for a single thing I've done?" "Because she's your sister," my aunt said, as if this was the most obvious thing in the world. "That's not a good enough reason," I said. "Being related to someone doesn't give them automatic rights to your property or your resources." My aunt sighed. "You know, Diana, not everything is about money and property. Sometimes family is more important than being right." "I agree," I said. "Family should be important. But family also means respecting boundaries and treating each other fairly. My parents have never done that. They've always favored Veronica, always expected me to be the responsible one while she got to do whatever she wanted. I'm done accepting that dynamic." "So you're just going to cut them off?" my aunt asked. "They're the ones threatening to cut me off," I pointed out. They sent me a card saying they can't have a relationship with me unless I do what they want. That's manipulation, not love. My aunt was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I think you're making a mistake. Family is forever. You'll regret this. Maybe, I said. But I doubt it. After I hung up, I realized my hands were trembling again. Not from fear or uncertainty, but from the sheer exhaustion of having to explain myself over and over to people who had already decided I was wrong. I checked my phone and saw that Jessica had texted me a photo of her fully furnished living room. The condo looked beautiful. She'd added plants, artwork, cozy touches that made the space feel like a real home. Loving this place. Thank you again for being such a great landlord. I smiled and texted back. So glad you're settling in well. Let me know if you need anything. That evening, I decided to treat myself. I'd been working hard and dealing with family drama for days. I deserved something nice. I drove to my favorite restaurant downtown, a small Italian place that made incredible pasta. I ordered a glass of red wine and their special of the day, a mushroom risotto that was perfectly creamy and flavorful. I ate slowly, savoring each bite and watching the other diners around me. Couples on dates, families with young children, groups of friends celebrating something. Everyone seemed happy and relaxed. It was a nice reminder that life existed outside of my family's dysfunction. As I finished my meal, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. This is Veronica. Mom gave me your number since you blocked us. I just want you to know that you ruined my life. I had everything planned. I was going to start fresh downtown, maybe get a job at one of the boutiques, meet new people. Now I'm stuck at home with Mom and Dad treating me like a failure. Everyone knows what happened. My friends keep asking me why I'm not downtown yet. I don't know what to tell them. You did this. You could have helped me, but you chose to be selfish instead. I hope you're happy. I read the message twice, then blocked the number. I paid my check, left a generous tip, and walked back to my car. The night air was cool and crisp. The downtown lights sparkled against the dark sky. I felt calm, clear-headed. Veronica wanted me to feel guilty. My parents wanted me to feel guilty. My aunt wanted me to feel guilty. But I didn't. I felt free. The week my parents had given me to reconsider passed without any communication from me. I went to work, paid my bills, checked in with Jessica to make sure everything was going well with the condo, lived my life exactly as I wanted to. On the 8th day, my phone rang at 7 a.m. It was my father. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. Hello, I said. Diana, my father said. His voice was cold and formal. Your week is up. Have you reconsidered? No, I said simply. Then this is goodbye, my father said. Your mother and I can't have a relationship with someone who treats family the way you've treated Veronica. You've made your choice, and we've made ours. Okay, I said. There was a pause. I think he expected me to beg or cry or try to change his mind. When I said nothing else, he continued. We won't be inviting you to family events anymore. Birthdays, holidays, nothing. As far as we're concerned, you're no longer part of this family. I understand, I said calmly. You understand, my father repeated, his voice rising slightly. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? I asked. You've given me an ultimatum. I'm not going to break a legal lease and kick out a good tenant just to appease you. So if that means you don't want a relationship with me, then that's your decision. It's your decision, my father said. You're choosing property over family. No, I said. I'm choosing self-respect over manipulation. There's a difference. My father made a sound of disgust. I don't even know who you are anymore. Yes, you do, I said. I'm the same person I've always been. I work hard, I take care of myself, and I don't let people take advantage of me. The only thing that's changed is that I'm no longer pretending to be okay with how you treat me. We've always treated you fairly, my father said. That's not true, and you know it, I replied. But it doesn't matter anymore. If you want to cut me out of your life, because I wouldn't give Veronica free housing, then do it. I'll be fine. My father hung up without saying goodbye. I sat on the edge of my bed for a few minutes, phone still in my hand. I waited for the sadness or regret to hit me, but it never came. Instead, I felt oddly peaceful. The decision had been made. There was no more uncertainty, no more waiting for the other shoe to drop. It was done. I got ready for work and went about my day as usual. I didn't cry. I didn't call anyone to talk about it. I just accepted it and moved forward. Over the next few weeks, I discovered just how little my family had actually been involved in my life. I didn't miss the awkward phone calls where my mother complained about everything and barely asked how I was doing. I didn't miss the guilt trips or the constant comparisons to Veronica. I didn't miss feeling like I was never good enough no matter what I accomplished. What I did notice was how much more energy I had without the constant drain of family drama. I felt lighter. I started going to the gym more regularly. I took a weekend trip to San Antonio just because I felt like it. I read books, tried new recipes, reconnected with old friends who actually appreciated me. Jessica turned out to be an ideal tenant. She paid rent on time every month, kept the place immaculate, and occasionally sent me photos of small improvements she'd made with my permission. She'd painted one of the bedrooms a soft blue and added floating shelves. It looked professional and beautiful. In February, she texted me about a small leak under the kitchen sink. I called a plumber immediately and had it fixed within 24 hours. Jessica was impressed. "You're seriously the best landlord I've ever had. Most people would have taken days to deal with this." "I take care of my properties," I replied, "and good tenants like you deserve responsive service." It felt good to be appreciated. It felt good to have a professional relationship built on mutual respect rather than one-sided expectations. Meanwhile, I heard through the grapevine that Veronica was still living with my parents and still unemployed. My aunt let it slip during a chance encounter at the grocery store in late February. She looked uncomfortable when she saw me, as if she wasn't sure whether she should acknowledge me or pretend we were strangers. "Hello." "Diana," she finally said. "Hello," I replied politely. "How are you?" she asked, though her tone suggested she didn't really want to know. "I'm doing well. How are you?" Fine. I saw your mother last week. She's still very upset about everything." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, though I wasn't sorry at all. "Veronica is having a hard time," my aunt continued, apparently unable to help herself. "She hasn't been able to find a job. Your mother thinks the whole situation has affected her confidence." "That's unfortunate," I said neutrally. My aunt looked at me expectantly, as if waiting for me to express guilt or offer to fix the situation. When I said nothing else, she sighed. "Well, I should go. Take care of yourself, Diana." "You too," I said. I watched her walk away, her cart full of groceries, and felt absolutely nothing. No guilt, no regret. No desire to reach out and make amends. Just a mild sense of relief that the conversation was over. In March, I received a letter in the mail from my parents. It was addressed formally, with my full name typed on the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a brief message. "Diana, we're writing to inform you that we're removing you from our will. Since you've chosen to prioritize money and property over family, we see no reason to leave you any inheritance. Everything will go to Veronica, who understands the value of family. We hope you find happiness in your choices." The letter was signed by both my parents, their signatures precise and final. I read it once, then folded it and put it in a file folder with other important documents. It wasn't a surprise. In fact, I'd expected something like this. My parents had always used money and gifts as tools of control. Removing me from the will was just another attempt to punish me. The thing they didn't understand was that I'd never counted on an inheritance. I'd built my own financial security. I didn't need their money. I never had. Spring arrived, and with it came a new opportunity. The hotel where I worked announced they were opening a second location across town, and they needed an experienced manager to help set it up and run it. The position came with a significant raise and more responsibility. I applied immediately and was offered the job within a week. My boss told me I was the obvious choice, that my work ethic and professionalism had always stood out. "You're one of the most reliable people I've ever worked with," she said. "I have no doubt you'll make this new location a success." I started the new position in April, throwing myself into the challenge of opening a new hotel. There were a million details to manage: hiring staff, setting up systems, coordinating with vendors, ensuring everything was ready for the grand opening. It was exhausting, but exhilarating. The new hotel opened in May, and it was a triumph. We had a steady stream of guests from day one, excellent reviews, a team that worked well together. I felt proud of what we'd accomplished. Around this same time, I started dating someone I'd met through a friend. His name was Trevor, and he worked as an architect. He was kind, funny, respectful. When I told him about the situation with my family, he listened without judgment. "That must have been difficult," he said. "It was," I admitted. "But it was also necessary. I couldn't keep letting them treat me that way." "I think you made the right choice," Trevor said. "Family should support you, not tear you down." It was refreshing to be with someone who understood that healthy relationships required boundaries and mutual respect. We took things slowly, enjoying each other's company without rushing into anything serious. In June, Jessica texted me with some news. "Hey Diana, I wanted to let you know that I got a promotion at work. I'll be traveling more for my job, which is exciting. The condo is perfect for me right now, but I wanted to give you a heads up that I might need to move to a different city in a year or so, depending on how things go with work. I'll obviously give you plenty of notice. Just wanted to keep you in the loop." "Congratulations on the promotion," I texted back. "And thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate having such a communicative tenant. Keep me posted on your plans." Jessica's message made me think about the future of the condo. If she moved out eventually, I'd need to find a new tenant. But that was a problem for another day. For now, everything was working perfectly. One Saturday afternoon in July, I was at a coffee shop downtown working on some paperwork for the hotel when I overheard a conversation at the next table. Two women were talking, and one of them mentioned my parents by name. I glanced over and recognized one of the women as a former neighbor from my parents' street. I hadn't seen her in years, but her voice was distinctive. "I feel so bad for them," she was saying. Their daughter completely cut them off over nothing. Just refused to help her own sister. "Can you imagine?" "That's awful," the other woman replied. "Family should come first." "Exactly," the neighbor said. "And poor Veronica. She's still living at home, you know. I see her sometimes when I drive by. She looks so sad. The whole situation has been hard on everyone." I kept my head down, pretending to focus on my laptop. Part of me wanted to turn around and tell them the truth, to explain that they only had one side of the story. But I knew it wouldn't matter. People believed what they wanted to believe, and my parents had clearly painted themselves as the victims. I finished my coffee and left without saying anything. Let them think about what they wanted. I knew the truth, and that was enough. In August, I got an unexpected message on social media from a cousin I hadn't spoken to in years. Her name was Olivia, and she was the daughter of my father's brother. We'd been close as children but had drifted apart as adults. "Hey Diana, I hope this doesn't come out of nowhere, but I heard about what happened with your parents and Veronica. I just wanted you to know that I don't think you did anything wrong. I've watched how they treat you versus how they treat Veronica for years, and it's always bothered me. You've worked so hard for everything you have, and they had no right to expect you to just hand over your property. Anyway, I just wanted to reach out and say that if you ever want to grab coffee or catch up, I'd love to hear how you're doing." I stared at the message for a long time, feeling a warmth in my chest that I hadn't expected. Someone in my family actually saw the situation clearly. "Someone understood," I wrote back immediately. "Olivia, thank you so much for reaching out. Your message means more than you know. I'd love to catch up. Are you free next weekend?" We made plans to meet for brunch the following Saturday. When we finally sat down together, it felt like no time had passed. Olivia was warm and genuine, and she listened to my side of the story without interrupting or judging. "I always knew your parents favored Veronica," Olivia said. "My dad used to comment on it too. He thought it was unfair how much they expected from you while giving Veronica a free pass for everything." "It feels good to hear someone else say that," I admitted. "I've spent so long wondering if I was crazy or selfish for feeling the way I did." "You're not crazy," Olivia said firmly. "You set a boundary and they couldn't handle it. That's on them, not you. We talked for hours, catching up on our lives and making plans to see each other more regularly. It was a reminder that family didn't have to be defined by biology alone. The people who truly cared about you were the ones who showed up and supported you, regardless of blood ties. As summer turned to fall, my life continued to improve. My job was going well, my relationship with Trevor was developing nicely, and my friendship with Olivia had become a regular source of joy. The condo was generating steady income, and Jessica remained an excellent tenant. I had built a good life for myself, one based on hard work, self-respect, and healthy boundaries, and I'd done it all without my parents' approval or support. October arrived with cooler temperatures and changing leaves. I was walking through a shopping center one Saturday afternoon when I ran into Veronica. It was the first time I'd seen her since Christmas dinner nearly 10 months ago. She was coming out of a clothing store carrying several shopping bags. When she saw me, her face went through a series of expressions: surprise, anger, and then something that looked almost like shame. "Diana," she said. "Veronica," I replied calmly. We stood there for a moment, neither of us quite sure what to say. She looked different, older somehow, though it had only been 10 months. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her clothes looked expensive but ill-fitting, as if she'd lost or gained weight recently. "How have you been?" I asked, more out of politeness than genuine interest. "Fine," she said quickly. Too quickly. Great, actually. Really great. "Good to hear," I said. "I've been busy," Veronica continued, her words coming faster now. "Really busy. I'm thinking about going back to school. Or maybe starting a business. I have lots of options." "That sounds nice," I said neutrally. Veronica's face flushed. "I know what you're thinking. You think I'm lazy and useless. You think I can't do anything on my own." "I haven't said anything like that," I pointed out. "You don't have to say it," Veronica snapped. "I can see it in your face. You've always looked down on me. You've always thought you were better than me because you have a job and a house." "I don't think I'm better than you," I said, "but I do think I made different choices. I chose to work hard and build something for myself. You chose to let Mom and Dad take care of everything. Those were our choices." "I didn't choose anything," Veronica said, her voice rising. "They offered. They wanted to help me. They enabled you," I corrected. "There's a difference." Veronica's eyes filled with tears. "You ruined everything. I could have had a fresh start downtown. I could have figured things out. But you took that away from me." "I didn't take anything away from you," I said firmly. "That condo was never yours. It was mine. I bought it with my own money, and I chose to rent it out. What you and Mom and Dad decided among yourselves was not my problem." "You could have helped me," Veronica said, her voice breaking. "I could have," I agreed, "but I chose not to, and I don't regret that decision." Veronica stared at me for a long moment, tears streaming down her face. Then she turned and walked away quickly, her shopping bag swinging at her sides. I watched her go, feeling nothing but a mild sense of sadness. Not for my decision, but for the fact that she still hadn't learned anything. She still believed the world owed her something, that other people should sacrifice for her comfort. I continued my shopping and went home, putting the encounter out of my mind. 2 weeks later, I received a phone call from Olivia. "Diana, have you seen the post?" she asked. "What post?" "Your mother posted something on social media about you. It's pretty bad. I thought you should know." My stomach tightened. "What did she say?" "She wrote this long thing about ungrateful children and how she and your dad sacrificed everything to raise you, only to have you abandon the family. She didn't use your name, but it's obvious she's talking about you. A lot of people are commenting, saying terrible things." I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Can you send me a screenshot?" "Already done," Olivia said. "Check your messages." I opened the message and read my mother's post. It was long and dramatic, full of phrases like heartbroken parents and selfish generation, and we gave her everything. The comments were even worse. People I'd never met were calling me ungrateful, spoiled, and heartless. "Are you okay?" Olivia asked. "I'm fine," I said. And surprisingly I was. She can post whatever she wants. The people who matter know the truth. "Do you want to respond?" Olivia asked. "Set the record straight?" No, I said. Responding would just give her more attention. Let her have her moment. It doesn't change anything. But even as I said the words, I felt a spark of anger building in my chest. Not because my mother had posted about me, but because she was still trying to control the narrative. She was still trying to make herself the victim. I thought about it for the rest of the day. My mother had sent me an ultimatum. She'd removed me from the will. She'd told family members lies about what happened. And now she was publicly shaming me on social media. And through it all, I'd remained silent. I'd taken the high road, refused to engage, and moved on with my life. But maybe it was time for a different approach. Maybe it was time to stop being silent and start speaking up. That evening, I sat down at my computer and began typing. Not a response to my mother's post, but something bigger. Something that would tell my side of the story in a way that couldn't be ignored or dismissed. I wrote for hours, crafting my words carefully. I wanted to be honest but not cruel, factual but not cold. By the time I finished, it was past midnight, but I felt satisfied with what I'd written. I saved the document and went to bed, already planning my next move. The next morning, I called Olivia. "I need your help with something," I said. "Anything," Olivia replied. "Do you remember my parents' anniversary party a few years ago? The one where they invited the whole family?" "Of course," Olivia said. "It was at that restaurant downtown. Big celebration for their 30th anniversary. Do you remember how they spent the whole night talking about how proud they were of both their daughters?" I asked. "Yes," Olivia said slowly. "And I remember thinking it was weird because they barely mentioned you at all. It was all about Veronica." "Exactly," I said. "And do you remember Thanksgiving 2 years ago when my mother told everyone I was too busy with work to help with dinner, when the truth was she never asked me to help?" "I remember that too," Olivia said. "You told me later that you'd offered multiple times, and she kept saying she didn't need help." "I need you to help me document these things," I said. "Every time my parents lied about me or dismissed me or favored Veronica, I want a clear record of the pattern of behavior. Can you help me remember the details?" "Absolutely," Olivia said. "I've been watching this happen for years. I can give you plenty of examples." We spent the next 2 hours on the phone going through memories and incidents. Olivia had a sharp memory and was able to recall specific conversations and moments that I'd half forgotten. By the end of the call, I had pages of notes. "What are you planning to do with all this?" Olivia asked. "I'm not sure yet," I admitted, "but I want to be prepared. If my mother wants to make this public, then maybe I should too." "Just be careful," Olivia said. "Once you put something out there, you can't take it back." "I know," I said, "and I'm going to think about it carefully before I do anything." But even as I said it, I knew I'd already made up my mind. I was done being silent. I was done letting my parents control the narrative. Over the next few days, I refined my statement. I fact-checked every detail, made sure my tone was calm and measured, and prepared myself for whatever backlash might come. Then, on a Thursday evening, I posted it. I didn't post it as a response to my mother's social media rant. Instead, I created my own post on my own page, a detailed explanation of what had actually happened. I explained how I'd worked since I was 16 while my parents funded Veronica's lifestyle. I explained how I'd bought the condo as an investment property with my own money. I explained how my parents had informed me at Christmas dinner that Veronica would be moving in without ever asking me first. I explained how I'd already rented the property to a qualified tenant before Veronica showed up. I included specific examples of how my parents had treated me, differently from Veronica over the years, not in a bitter or angry way, but simply as facts. I let the truth speak for itself. I ended the post with a simple statement. I love my family, but I will not be manipulated or guilted into giving up my property or my self-respect. I worked hard for what I have, and I have the right to make my own decisions about my own life. If that makes me selfish in their eyes, then so be it. I hit post and closed my laptop. Within an hour, the post had dozens of comments. Most of them were supportive, friends, co-workers, and even people I barely knew were commenting with messages like, "Good for you," and "You did the right thing," and Your family should be proud of you, not tearing you down. A few comments were negative, mostly from people who believed family should always come first, regardless of circumstances. But even those comments were outnumbered by the supportive ones. By the next morning, the post had been shared over 100 times. People were messaging me privately to share their own stories of family dysfunction and boundary setting. It was overwhelming, but also validating. Olivia called me that afternoon. "Have you seen your mother's page?" she asked. "No," I said. "Should I?" "She deleted her post about you," Olivia said, "and she hasn't posted anything since. I think she realized that her version of events doesn't hold up when people hear your side." I felt a surge of satisfaction. "Good. There's more," Olivia said. "My dad called me this morning. He said your father called him yesterday, trying to get family members to pressure you into taking down your post. But my dad refused. He told your father that he'd read your post and thought you were completely justified in everything you did." "Really?" I said, surprised. "Really," Olivia confirmed. "And he's not the only one. A lot of the family is starting to question your parents' version of events. People are asking questions about why they treated you and Veronica so differently. Your parents aren't getting the sympathy they expected." I sat down on my couch, processing this information. I hadn't posted my statement to turn the family against my parents. I'd posted it to tell the truth and protect my own reputation. But apparently the truth had consequences beyond what I'd anticipated. "How do you feel about all this?" Olivia asked. "Honestly," I said, "I feel free. For the first time in my life, I feel like I don't have to pretend everything is fine. I can just be honest about what happened, and people can make up their own minds." 3 days after I posted my statement, my mother called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. "Diana," she said. Her voice was tight and controlled. "We need to talk." "About what?" I asked. "About that horrible thing you posted on social media," she said. "You made us look like terrible parents." I told the truth, I said. "If the truth makes you look bad, that's not my fault." "You embarrassed us," my mother said. "The whole family is talking about it. People are asking us questions. Your aunt refused to come to dinner last week because she said she needed time to think about everything." "I'm sorry you're embarrassed," I said. "But I'm not sorry I posted it. You posted about me first, remember? You tried to make me look like an ungrateful, selfish daughter. I just provided context." "We're your parents," my mother said. "You should respect us." "Respect goes both ways," I replied. "And you haven't respected me for years. You expected me to hand over my property to Veronica without asking. You cut me out of your will. You sent me ultimatums and tried to manipulate me. You don't get to demand respect when you haven't given me any." There was a long silence. I could hear my mother breathing on the other end of the line. "What do you want from us?" she finally asked, her voice sounding tired. "I don't want anything from you," I said honestly. "I just want to live my life without being guilted or manipulated." "That's all I've ever wanted. So that's it?" my mother asked. "You're just done with us?" "You were the ones who said we couldn't have a relationship unless I did what you wanted," I reminded her. "I'm just accepting the terms you set." "Maybe we were too harsh," my mother said quietly. "Your father and I have been talking. Maybe we overreacted." I felt a flicker of something. Not hope exactly, but curiosity. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe we can work this out," my mother said. "If you take down that post, we can start over. We can put all of this behind us." And there it was, the condition. Even now, even after everything, they couldn't just apologize without asking for something in return. "No," I said. "No?" my mother repeated. "The post stays up," I said. "It's the truth, and I'm not going to erase it just to make you comfortable. If you want to have a relationship with me, it needs to be based on mutual respect and honesty, not on me doing whatever you want in exchange for your approval." "That's not fair," my mother protested. "Actually, it's the definition of fair," I said. "I'm not asking you to do anything except treat me like an equal, like an adult who has the right to make her own decisions. If you can't do that, then we have nothing more to talk about." My mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I need to think about this. This isn't what I expected." "Take all the time you need," I said, "but my position isn't going to change." She hung up without saying goodbye. I set my phone down and looked around my living room. My comfortable, peaceful living room in the house I'd bought with my own money. I had built a good life. I had friends who supported me, a relationship that made me happy, a job I was proud of, property that generated income. I had everything I needed, and if my parents couldn't accept that, it was their loss, not mine. 2 weeks later, I received a letter from my father. It was handwritten, which surprised me. My father rarely wrote anything by hand. Diana, your mother, and I have spent a lot of time thinking about what you said. We don't agree with everything you posted, but we can see that we made mistakes. We treated you and Veronica differently, and that wasn't fair to you. We expected you to be responsible and independent while letting Veronica depend on us. We see now that this created resentment. We would like to try to rebuild our relationship if you're willing. We're not asking you to take down your post or apologize for setting boundaries. We're just asking for a chance to start fresh. If you're open to talking, please let us know. I read the letter 3 times. It wasn't a perfect apology. It still had phrases like, "we don't agree with everything," that showed they weren't fully accepting responsibility, but it was more than I'd expected. It was a start. I decided to wait a few days before responding. I wanted to make sure I was making the decision with a clear head, not out of loneliness or a desperate need for family connection. After careful consideration, I wrote back, "I appreciate your letter. I'm willing to have a conversation, but only if we can establish clear boundaries. I need you to understand that my property and my finances are my own, and I will not be pressured into making decisions based on what you think I should do. I need you to treat me and Veronica equally, which means expecting her to be responsible for her own life, just like you expected me to be. If we can agree on those terms, then yes, we can try to rebuild, but I will not go back to the way things were." I mailed the letter and waited. A week later, my parents called and asked if I would meet them for coffee. I agreed. We met at a neutral location, a cafe halfway between my house and theirs. The conversation was awkward at first, stilted and careful, but slowly we began to talk about real things. My mother admitted that she'd always found it easier to take care of Veronica than to let her struggle. My father admitted that he'd taken my independence for granted and assumed I didn't need their support. I explained how their favoritism had hurt me over the years, how it had made me feel like I was only valued for what I could provide, not for who I was. It wasn't a perfect conversation. There were moments of tension and defensiveness, but it was honest, and that was something we'd never really had before. At the end of the meeting, my mother asked, "What about Veronica? She's still very upset about everything." "Veronica needs to learn to take care of herself," I said firmly, "and you need to stop enabling her. She's 25 years old. It's time for her to grow up." My father nodded slowly. "You're right. We've been doing her a disservice." "What if she doesn't want to change?" my mother asked. "That's her choice," I said, "but it shouldn't be your problem to solve anymore." As the months passed, my parents slowly began to shift their approach with Veronica. They stopped paying all her bills. They gave her a deadline to either get a job or move out. It was hard for them, and Veronica fought it every step of the way. But they held firm. By spring, Veronica had found a job as a receptionist at a dental office. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. She moved into a small apartment with a roommate and began, slowly and reluctantly, to build her own life. My relationship with my parents improved gradually. We would never be close the way some families were, but we found a way to coexist with mutual respect. They stopped making demands, and I stopped expecting them to change overnight. The condo continued to generate steady income. Jessica eventually moved for her job, just as she'd predicted, and I found another excellent tenant to take her place. My career continued to flourish, and Trevor and I moved in together after a year of dating. As for Veronica, she eventually came to me with a grudging apology. It wasn't heartfelt, and I could tell she still resented me on some level, but she acknowledged that being forced to take care of herself had been good for her. She was learning things she should have learned years ago. The experience taught my family important lessons. Boundaries weren't punishments. They were necessary structures for healthy relationships. My parents learned that treating children equally meant having equal expectations, not just equal affection. Veronica learned that no one owed her a free ride through life. and I learned that standing up for myself wasn't selfish. It was essential. In the end, Veronica never fully recovered from the humiliation of being turned away from the condo that day. The story spread through her social circles, and she became known as the woman whose sister refused to let her freeload. She struggled to rebuild her reputation and her sense of self-worth. My parents, too, faced consequences. Several family members distanced themselves after learning how they'd treated me, and their social standing within the family diminished. They spent years trying to repair relationships they'd damaged through their favoritism and manipulation, never quite regaining the respect they once had. As I sat on my porch one evening, watching the sunset over the city I'd built my life in, I reflected on everything that had happened. It hadn't been about cruelty or spite. It had been about refusing to be treated as less than I deserved, about drawing a line and refusing to cross it, no matter how much pressure was applied. Sometimes, the most powerful form of justice isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well and refusing to compromise your own worth for anyone else's comfort. I'd worked hard for everything I had. I'd built a life on my own terms, with my own hands, through my own choices. And no one, not my parents, not my sister, not anyone, could take that away from me. The condo still stands downtown, generating income month after month. A reminder that what you build yourself, through sacrifice and determination, belongs to you alone. And that's a truth no family drama can ever change.